my name is Riku Kubota, and today I would like to talk about marketing regimes and its stimulus to impulsive consumer spending. So first, I'd like to begin the presentation with posing the audience with a question. Have you ever purchased an ice cream at the store because the owner gave you a free sample from perhaps the awkward tension that you must buy something at the store? Or have you ever purchased or acquired something superfluously because there was a buy one, get one free deal? Or have you ever purchased something because it was displayed with a great price deduction from its original cost? Well, such phenomenon all relate to this theory of behavioral economics, a study of how people are conditioned to act in a market in a designated economic environment. My research today touches upon the intrinsic value of such field study and its potential consequences that follow when being unconscious of its existence. So next, I would like to talk about the objective of this study. 55%. I want the audience to first think about this number. Well, this is actually the percentage of the people in the United States who have a designated number of credit card debt. This reality, along with the discovered truth of 44% of Americans' households having less than $400 in emergency funds, proves the per capita financial instability of the current United States. This reality has led me to focus on the essence of impulsive spendings and purchases that we perform in our daily lives that contribute to significant financial losses. Through this presentation, I would like to disseminate the idea of how and why it is important for us to alleviate financial damage and focus on the effects we can bring to society as an individual. So next, I would like to introduce the theories that I've decided to analytically investigate. First, the reference dependence. The concept of reference dependence correlates to the idea that people evaluate outcomes to dependent on a reference point. The zero price effect is a theory that elaborates on the vulnerability of one's mind when approached with free expense. And finally, the principle of reciprocity highlights the human mindset to want to reciprocate when provided with a favor or gift. So I would like to introduce these theories one by one and dive into each essence and why it's imperative to study these. So first, the reference of dependence. I want the audience to look at this figure. The reference dependence, to remind the audience, is a concept that correlates to the idea that people evaluate outcomes relative to a reference point. In this example, if we were to put our reference point on figure A, figure B and C would be considered large figures. However, if we were to put our reference point on figure B would be considered the normal height, and figure A and figure C would be considered small and large respectively. This is because we put our reference point on another figure. Reference points are imperative and vital to analytically is distinguishing what we purchase in the market. So in the market, there are two types of referencing: internal reference and external reference. Internal reference is the past purchasing experience and memory that we perform in the market. So for example, if we purchase something before in the prior day and base our subsequent purchases to that prior day, that would be considered internal reference. External reference would be the price displays in advertisement. For example, price displays considering 80% off, that would be an external reference because there's the original price and then there's a price that's displayed as 80% off, which would be the comparative price. So I've provided here with an example. Shop A and Shop B. Shop A displays its soccer ball at $40 deducted into $10, and Shop B merely displays it as $10. The effects of this are that Shop A would seem much more lucrative than Shop B because there's a reference point of $40 and then a comparative point of $10 compared to Shop B, where there's only $10. According to a case study conducted by Nicholas Stern in the research paper of the significance of impulsive buying today, 38 to 50% of impulsive purchases made in the market were stimulated by reference. It is vital to study this research because 38 to 50% of impulsive purchases were made in the market and stimulated by reference, which means that often when people visit the market, it is that they are heavily dependent on a reference point and heavily swayed by the reference point into making impulsive purchases. Sadly, these were highly seen in the products of jewelry and clothing, which are highly disposable, which can be detrimental to the environment when not taken care of. Next, I would like to talk about the zero price effect. To reiterate, the zero price effect elaborates on the vulnerability of one's mind when approached with a product of free expense. This means that if a consumer is approached with $0.01, they would be hesitant, or perhaps they would be hesitant to buy the product. However, if they are displayed with $0, they would view the product as highly beneficial and would be easily vulnerable to approach the product. This was corroborated in the Hershey's and Ferrero chocolate experiment. The experiment consisted of a $0.26 Ferrero chocolate and a $0.01 Hershey's chocolate. This was the control, and the research was then repeated with a $0.01 increase and a $0.01 decrease in the price respectively, and to see if which chocolate the consumers would approach. I guess the data was compelling. As we can see here, in the $1.26 experiment, some people decided to purchase no chocolate, and we can see similar effects in the 2-cent and 27-cent experiment. However, in the 0 and 25-cent experience, we can see that nobody decided to take no chocolate, and everyone acquired either Hershey's or Ferrero chocolate. This shows that even a $0.01 or 1 cent decrease or increase in product could bring vital changes to an outcome in the consumer's behavior in a market. Next, I would like to move on to the principle of reciprocity. The principle of reciprocity highlights the human mindset to urge to reciprocate when provided with a favor or gift. For example, if producer A provides consumer B with a present or a product that doesn't necessarily contain monetary value, such as a kind message or a small gift of token, consumer B would feel the urge to reciprocate because they were provided with a favor. Again, this was corroborated with the experiment of the waiter service after dinner versus the tipping rate. So in this experiment, research investigated the tipping rate when the waiters provided no message after dinner service and with a message and gift after the dinner service. So when the dinner service was complete, the waiter would either bring the check without a message or with a message and a gift. The graph on the left provides us a perspective of when the waiter provided the consumers or the people who came to dine with a chocolate. The research shows that when the waiters provided the consumers with nothing, the tipping rate was about averaging 15%. However, when the waiters brought a small chocolate, that was minuscule in monetary value, but it was an act of kindness, showed that the tipping rate rise to about 18%. This could be seen in patriotic messages as well. In the graph on the right, we can see that when the waiters provided no message, well, the tipping rate was approximately about 15%. After that, it rises exponentially. When the message contains "Have a nice day," it is seen that the tipping rate is approximately 16%. "God bless America" is about 17%, and "United we stand" is about 19%, which can be seen that even messages that don't necessarily contain a large monetary value or even a monetary value at all, these can have a substantial effect on how people impulsively spend. So next, I would like to talk about the consequences of such consumer spending. So the individual consequences are, of course, poverty, debt, and guilt. According to Linda Stegg, a behavior economist, 59% of Black Friday shoppers regret their purchases, and 40% do not stick to their initial intent and over-purchased. What this does is that it creates a vicious cycle of overspending and overdisposal, which could lead to poverty because people with lower income have a tendency to spend at a higher impulse rate. This could stimulate debt, and debt and poverty are sort of hand in hand. They come together. And guilt is that behavior economist Daniel Kahneman has proven that a majority of the consumers experience guilt after impulsively purchasing, which could lead to mental damage as well as physical damage coming from the low financial stake. Next, I would like to move on to the environmental consequences. So 20% of electric devices are only recycled when purchased. So this would mean that impulsively purchasing shopping sprees, such as the holiday seasons or the Christmas seasons, Black Friday seasons, the New Year sales, 20% of electric devices consumed in such events are only recycled, which means 80% go without being recycled. What this does is that it leaves a environmental damage and approximately 200 years of biodegradation time, which would be detrimental because bioaccumulation proves that these like so-called substances of mercury can lead into the human consumption and further harm our future generation. And finally, services such as Amazon Prime have a 35 times more carbon emission rate. This comes from our impulsive purchases than conventional delivery services, which is shocking. And finally, human capital. So the consequences of us impulsively consuming can lead to the exploitation of human capital. For example, workers in Bangladesh thrive off of $102 a month. And the Rana Plaza disaster has proven that people live in very low stake situations. Deaths of these collapse of garment buildings such as the Rana Plaza disaster have proven that human capitals are often at high risk when we impulsively spend. So to pose a solution, I've provided disposal and supplemental tax. So disposal tax disincentivizes purchase because we are taxing disposal. This has been proven to be especially effective in Japan and places of Europe because it provides additional government funds. And supplemental taxation could be taxing the buy one get one free deals. The original price of the buy one get one free deals, a free gift, and yeah, that could solve negative externalities. And second, I would like to, and the cultivation of culture is imperative. So in conventional purchasing customs, individuals would spend large amounts of money and producers would move large amounts of products to the individual, and the individuals would dispose large amounts into the environment. This would internally stimulate the producers to be incentivized to produce more, taking more from the environment, which is creating a vicious cycle. If we were to reduce advertisement, spread awareness of consequences, demote overconsumption, we could see less spending of money to producers, less products given, less products harming the environment, and less production, which could lead to producers giving more thought on human labor forces. That could lead to the solution of Chinese and Indian or Bangladesh employees who are being currently exploited by this capitalistic vicious cycle. So the key takeaways are these three. Heuristically develop a purchase custom. What this means is that when you go out to shop, you should usually have a shopping list, or you should develop a purchase custom that is fit for your lifestyle. 2, acknowledge the outcomes. As I've mentioned, there are various consequences that occur when we impulsively spend. When we acknowledge these outcomes, we are able to be thoughtful of what we purchase in the market. And 3, continue our lateral thinking. This means to think outside of the box. When we are displayed with a lucrative, at first glance, lucrative consumer advertisement that could potentially be like 80% off, we should always question it and always think outside the box. What could this be? Why could the producer be doing such a thing? And when we are able to do this, that could lead to the betterment of our lifestyles. Thank you so much. This is a bibliography. Thank you so much.
Great job. And we have time if there's one question anyone would like to ask. Megan, thank you.
You mentioned I think it was Rana Plaza disaster or something.
Mhm.
Can you please
Yeah.
explain what that was? Also, great
Sorry,
presentation.
thank you so much. The Rana Plaza disaster was actually a disaster in Bangladesh that was caused by the lack of these companies such as H&M or that stimulated fast fashion to neglect taking care of these garment buildings that were in Bangladesh, which had continually been advised to go under reconstruction, but they neglected that and the garment building collapsed and more than 1,000 people died from that garment building collapse. And that was due to these impulsive spendings and people not being careful of these labor forces.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Riku. Your presentation was very well thought and very impressive.